Young Sheldon is dead. Long live old Sheldon. That's right, the Big Bang Theory prequel series has finally come to an end. But fear not, faithful viewer and best friend, because with the launch of the new sequel series to Young Sheldon, Georgie and Mandy's first marriage, we're now entering the realm of what I'm hoping to call the SCU, the Sheldon Cinematic Universe. But as the series finale drew to a close, something became more and more evident. The Big Bang Theory lied to you.
Bazinga.
When we first heard that we were going to get a prequel for Sheldon's life, we expected that the show would tie loose ends left unattended in the canon. But no. Chuck Lorre and Steve Malero had some other plans. What happens in the buildup of George Sr.'s death? Why did Missy not support Georgie when their dad died? What's the reality behind Sheldon's 3-knock rule? Yeah, don't expect young Sheldon to answer any of these questions. Let's explore the retconning of Sheldon's life. The messy life of Sheldon. Sherlock Holmes died at the Reichenbach Falls. However, the author, Arthur Conan Doyle, changed his death to be a mere facade, a staged killing to retroactively bring his beloved character back to life. In the years to come, the famous resurrection would become an early example of retcon or retroactive continuity. If you're a staunch comic book fan, you already know what we're talking about. It can be super annoying when authors and creators try to have their cake and eat it too. For those who are new to the nuisance of retconning, this literary device allows creators to change the content or plot lines of a previously established narrative. Typically, retcons help authors to create parallel universes, but at the same time, the catch is that the new narrative would be in conflict with the original work that you hold dear. Now, this term had been around in the world of comics and television for a while, but it was in the 1980s where it would become a bit more mainstream. Today, the internet insists on pointing out contradictions in prequels and sequels of their favorite show or comic strip. And, well, now you know that those rants have a word for it. It's definitely not something I've ever done on the channel here. No, never. But yeah, we've seen the OG fans of the Big Bang Theory continuously bring up that young Sheldon had something of a tendency for breaking the original storylines and plot points that the original had sort of laid out. And let me tell you, the process has been kind of annoying. Sheldon Cooper's cinematic universe is quickly becoming as vast as it is messy. His relationship with his family is quintessential in explaining why Sheldon acts the way he does, or at least what it may have been like living with a child as peculiar as him. But the messiness is fun, and over the course of 12 seasons of the show, we get to learn the narrative of Sheldon Cooper's life, only for young Sheldon to break some aspects of it into tiny little pieces. So let's just call this what it is. Sheldon Cooper has some daddy issues. In The Big Bang Theory, George Sr. is described as a typical Texas redneck who's an alcoholic and struggles to understand his intellectually exceptional son. While a part of this is true, George Sr. is shown to be a pretty supportive father in young Sheldon. But of course, everything about Sheldon's daddy issues can be tied to the brilliant scientist's 3-knock rule. You know, 1 knock to indicate your presence at the door, and the next several knocks to give folks a chance to put their pants on. In the season 10 episode, The Hot Tub Contamination, Sheldon tells Penny the heartbreaking story of walking in on his dad cheating on his mother. To jog your memory, the jolting event took place when Sheldon was 13 years old and was home from college, because his teachers were out of math to teach him. Since his mother was supposed to be at her Bible study, he expected the house to be empty, but was surprised to hear weird noises coming from his parents' bedroom. You can already guess what was going on. Sheldon had shared the story as the reason behind his iconic 3-knock rule. The story was significant for other reasons too. The father-son duo would hardly make amends as Sheldon was only 14 when his father passed away. Now, as young Sheldon's end drew ever closer, Big Bang Theory fans were already bracing themselves to witness this heartbreaking event. But the build-up to George Sr.'s infidelity became a weird moment of retcon with odd timeline changes and an anticlimactic resolution. Spoiler alert guys, Sheldon's father doesn't sleep with another woman. The resolution to this plotline happens when Sheldon is 14 and not 13, so the creators already kind of tampered with the timeline. We know Sheldon Cooper, this isn't a detail he would forget. Season 5 of Young Sheldon shows George seemingly having an affair of some sort with Brenda. At the end of season 4, we do see the pair driving home to Brenda's house, and for the most part, the time before George ends up in the hospital is kept ambiguous. However, as the show progresses, we get to know that the affair in question was perhaps more along the lines of emotional cheating. It's also a transgression that Mary forgets. As an isolated plotline, it honestly works. But of course, what do we make of the adult Sheldon who grew up to be distrusting of marriage and love? Instead, the creators of Young Sheldon just made this entire thing more about challenging adult Sheldon's perspective on his family as he gets married and assumes fatherhood. But then, the final season of Young Sheldon feels like a punch in the throat. It turns out that young Sheldon does indeed walk in on his father doing the horizontal monster mash with a woman. But that woman isn't Brenda. It's Mary, his mother, in a blonde wig. Mary is seen role-playing as Helga to spice up the couple's bedroom life. So yeah, Sheldon's daddy issues, which shaped his entire life, are reduced to a bit of kinky roleplay his parents were doing to keep their marriage healthy, and a classic case of misunderstanding. The entire thing is just super insulting to the legacy of adult Sheldon Cooper. Young Sheldon's producer Steve Holland told TV Line, quote, "We are not beholden to every joke that was ever made on the Big Bang Theory, but we do feel beholden to the larger canon and the larger events that shaped Sheldon's life. We want to honor those," end quote. But unfortunately, we'd say that Sheldon's experiences with his father cheating on his mother wasn't an event that shaped his life. It was the event that shaped his life. Many fans of the Big Bang Theory called the anticlimactic infidelity twist a massive cop-out so that George Sr. sympathizers didn't storm off. And I kinda get where they're coming from. But at the same time, the show really wanted to maintain its likability to find decent support for the Georgie and Mandy spin-off. There was a side on the internet that seemed to root for this retcon too. Young Sheldon had turned George Sr. into a likable character who was attentive to his family's needs, and was pretty understanding of Sheldon's obsession with science. I mean, there was a point when there were edits of him being unafraid to stand up for what's right and punching some dude going around on Twitter, for God's sake. When the creators chose to absolve him of his cheating transgression, they were actually packing a punch for the saddest event of the two shows, George Sr.'s death. Since Young Sheldon doesn't give us a moment to truly demonize the character, the entire moment becomes that much more heart-wrenching. But here's the thing. It's the stark difference between the Sheldons of these two supposedly deeply interconnected universes that the fans are upset about. Young Sheldon has been contradicting the Big Bang Theory in a lot of ways since its inception, but many of those changes were mainly just minor details, small bits here and there. However, in another blow to the established Cooper canon, Young Sheldon also drastically changed how we once viewed Georgie, and by extension Missy, Sheldon's siblings. Who is the real Georgie Cooper? So, let's jog your memory one more time. While we meet with most of the Coopers in the first season of The Big Bang Theory, it's in fact Georgie who doesn't appear in the show until season 11. The eldest Cooper child only makes a trip to Pasadena because Amy and Sheldon are getting married. In the episode The Sibling Realignment, we get to see George Jr. as this bitter but successful businessman who's perpetually upset at his younger brother for never being there for his family. When George Sr. dies, it's Georgie who's left alone to pick up the pieces while Sheldon goes off to Caltech. This particular plotline from the Big Bang Theory falls in line with the character development of Georgie from Young Sheldon. In the Big Bang Theory, Sheldon described Georgie as this morally depraved bully who made his life a living hell, but the prequel turned him into a sweetheart. In Young Sheldon, we see Georgie being a typically dumb teenager obsessed with football. Despite his not-so-bright moments, he's a sweet and protective older brother. Don't get us wrong, we still think Missy is the best Cooper sibling, but Georgie definitely has his moments. When he finds his younger siblings at a party, he takes them home. He helps Missy with math homework when he's actually able to, and we can't shake off the beautiful moment when Missy slides her test with a perfect score under Georgie's bedroom door. And of course, he and Sheldon aren't very bothersome with each other. Sure, there are small fights, but they're pretty typical, like Sheldon mocking his brother for not being very smart, and Georgie rolling his eyes at his younger brother's lack of social skills. The show goes out of its way to depict sweet moments like this between the brothers. Our favorite one being when Georgie teaches Sheldon how to fake illness to skip school. The Big Bang Theory kind of glosses over these instances. The brothers patch up in season 11 in the established canon as Sheldon finally realizes how Georgie had to pick up everyone's slack when their father passed away. Mary was grief-stricken and Missy wasn't much help either. Sheldon was off pursuing his dream and Georgie was left to take care of the house and the family. Now, there was a possibility in the Big Bang Theory universe that perhaps Georgie matured after becoming a father to Constance and eventually losing his dad, but neither Constance or Mandy are mentioned in the Big Bang Theory, leaving that particular plotline really only a theory, a Big Bang Theory. And while it's true that the absence of such details left the creators of Young Sheldon to recontextualize Georgie more liberally, there are some inconsistencies in his characterization that fans can't easily shake off. In Young Sheldon, Georgie does mature very fast, and perhaps he has the most cathartic story arc in the show. Despite being a broke and mostly dumb teenager, he takes responsibility for Mandy's pregnancy, who is significantly older than him. He tries to build a life for his daughter and Mandy despite being a high school dropout. Georgie is always trying to meet Mandy's expectations so he can be present in his daughter's life. Eventually, as we know, his business acumen and ambition made him a self-made millionaire in the tire business. The fans of Young Sheldon also appreciated how the teenager made remarkable efforts to navigate a challenging relationship with Mandy. Sounds pretty good, right? But if you tell all these details to Big Bang Theory fans who haven't watched the prequel, they'll probably scoff at you. Georgie in their universe is something of a ladies' man. We don't really see these inclinations in Young Sheldon, and if they do indeed develop over time, we might see glimpses of them in the Georgie and Mandy spin-off, but it's unlikely that creators would take away the best bits of the character after giving him his own show. The soft, romantic, and lovesick puppy side of the character is highlighted in the prequel series several times. Now, you can only imagine the divide between the young Sheldon Georgie and the one we met in season 11 of The Big Bang Theory. And that wasn't the end of it. The retcon of Georgie's story is as much about Missy as it is about him. In the prequel, we see Mary mostly paying attention to Sheldon, at times at the expense of Georgie and Missy. The brother-sister duo mostly stuck together as they navigated life in the sometimes absence of major parental figures in their lives. In Young Sheldon, we see Missy as this highly emotionally intelligent kid who extends support to her family. From sympathizing with Mary's hard job as a mother to supporting Sheldon in challenging social situations, she does it all. She's so cool that she manages to get a special shout out from Sheldon in his valedictorian speech. But it's her relationship with Georgie that always stood out to me in the show. How do they set themselves apart when their brother is a genius and goes off to college when they can't even solve elementary math problems? Well, they stick together. Their relationship takes another spotlight in season 5 of Young Sheldon, when all the Coopers tattle about Mandy's pregnancy despite Georgie's instruction to keep it secret. When Georgie finds out that his family has betrayed him, it's Missy who apologizes to him first. Yeah, and she's the one who doesn't really blabber about it that much, at least we don't see her doing so. But the apology went deeper than just a fix the situation mechanism. Even though Missy is 5 years younger than her older brother, she's the one who understands the predicament of accidental fatherhood. She doesn't judge him or chastise him for what happened, but rather she reaches out to have a word, without being her snarky and sarcastic self. For the first time in that muddy and scary situation, Georgie feels supported. So now, pray tell, why do we hear Georgie belittling his supportive sister in The Big Bang Theory? When the oldest Cooper appears on the show, he disdainfully says that his sister was a dumb teenager who didn't help him at all when their dad passed away. Nothing about their interaction in the Big Bang Theory universe mirrors their dynamic in Young Sheldon. The fans were also quick to notice that considering how Missy is in the prequel, her detachment from her family after the passing of George Sr. doesn't really add up either. Sure, Missy at times seems self-absorbed when she prioritizes watching TV and having fun over being responsible. But she's known to show up for her family when they feel unsupported or alone. She's cognizant of the tough life that Georgie was leading, especially after becoming a father at a young age and dropping out of high school. it doesn't really make sense for her to withdraw her support from Georgie and Mary during the toughest times of their lives. The story arcs don't really add up or come together, and according to the creator of Young Sheldon, they don't have to for one particular reason. The retconning of the established canon is reflective of Sheldon's varying perspective on life. A child, particularly a socially inept one like Sheldon, has a pretty exaggerated and hyperbolic perspective on life. A slight misdemeanor feels like the end of the world. When Sheldon moved away for college at a young age and then never found his way back, he didn't exactly get time to come to terms with how supportive his family actually was. They had their transgressions, but they didn't exactly make Sheldon's life the living hell that he would often talk about as an adult. But then, in the season 4 premiere of Young Sheldon, titled Graduation, we get to know that he and Amy have a son named Leonard. As an involved dad, Sheldon even plans his son's graduation party. Becoming a parent gave Sheldon a fresh perspective on his family, according to the creators of Young Sheldon. So when one watches the prequel, what one sees is Sheldon's matured perspective in the light of his fatherhood. So yeah, if we buy into this theory, Young Sheldon is a revisioned account rather than a case of retroactive continuity. The show also seeks to contextualize its characters a bit more. We see this in the case of Meemaw, who is known to be fairly bittered and rigid in the established canon. Young Sheldon, however, shows her as this free, fun-loving spirit whose life takes a turn when her illegal gambling business is caught and she loses her house in a tornado. Those experiences were probably enough to shift Meemaw's personality to what we saw in The Big Bang Theory. But those, oh, here's an explanation moments are rare. Most of the time, narratively, young Sheldon and adult Sheldon are worlds apart. At the end of the day, Young Sheldon wasn't made solely for the fans of the show that premiered in 2007. It sets out to entertain a whole new audience that maybe haven't watched the original Big Bang Theory. So it doesn't really matter if Young Sheldon retcons its canon or not, because at the end of the day, it was fun, heartwarming, and entertaining on its own. But anyways, this has been 10K Bill, and thanks for watching. Comment down below what you'd like to hear me talk about next. Follow me on Twitter at 10K Bill, and of course, make sure you subscribe for all your entertainment-related content.